Okay, today's date is April 10th, 2013. We're at the Remington at Valley Ranch in Irving, Texas. With me is Lewis Wayne Monroney. Lewis was born on July 11th, 1922. My name is John Hayes. With me is Matt Jack. We're on staff of Congressman Kenny Marchant. Mr. Monroney served in World War II in the United States Navy. He was a war tender 3rd class, served in the Pacific area. Well, Wayne, thank you for being with us today to tell us a little bit about your military experiences. First thing, let me ask you, where were you and what did you think on December 7th, 1941?
1941, December the 7th, I was in the movie at Lubbock. I was going to school at Texas Tech. I was watching the movie, and I couldn't believe what I saw on TV, on the movie screen, when they announced that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. It just was devastating. I just couldn't hardly believe anything like that could happen to the U.S. of A.
So what did you do after you saw that? Did you want to go join the military at that point?
Well, I did, but I wanted to, but I was hesitant because I didn't know what I wanted to do really. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, but there was a lot of tech boys, young men that did go, didn't come back for the second semester of 42, 42. Spring semester of 42. And I finished the spring semester of 42 and went back to my hometown of Forsyth.
So how did you get involved with the military now? Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted.
And were you assigned the Navy or did you have a choice in that?
I had choice in that. My friend, I was working for Cosden Pipeline in Forsyth, and he was a gauger at Forsyth, and his draft number was about to come up, as mine was about to come up, and we went to Big Spring, and from Big Spring they told us to go to Dallas, and so in Dallas I had choice of the Army, Air Corps, or Navy, so I chose the Navy. I don't know why, but I just liked the Navy. And my friend went to the Seabees, and that very same day, they told me that I had to go to San Diego, California, and my friend went to Seabee. He got to go back to Forsyth for a while before they called him again. And I shipped out that very same night, and on the train headed for San Diego, California, and never had been to San Diego. Never had been out to the state of California before, so I didn't know what it was all about.
What was your impression when you showed up at the Navy in San Diego? What happened to you there on your basic training?
Well, my first impression was I'd never seen so many buses, and that in all my life, and that fumes, that exhaust fumes that the buses put out, I still can remember that. And they took us off the bus and took us to a base there somewhere, and and put us up for the night. And from there they assigned us different positions, and we had to go to work out on a big large, well, it'd be football field, I guess, but it was all concrete, as I remember. It was all concrete. And then they assigned us to do something, and as I remember, and for boot camp, they put us in classes and gave us a piece of metal and a file and told us to start filing. And I just couldn't believe how that was going to help me anything. But we did that for 12 weeks of boot camp. As I remember, 12 weeks of boot camp before, and I got that piece of metal file real good for them and gave it back to them.
Any individuals that stand out in boot camp for you that you remember?
I don't remember. I don't remember any of their names right now. I really don't. I can't remember any of their names right now.
Well, where'd you go after San Diego?
From after 12 weeks of boot camp, they shipped us up to San Francisco.
And what'd you do in San Francisco?
We waited there on a pier or dock or building or something, and they told us that we were going to go across the pond, and we didn't know where we were going. So, and then they loaded us on a troop ship or can't remember Paul Revere. I remember the name of it was Paul Revere, and they headed in the Pacific, and there was about 200 of us, as I remember, aboard ship, and there was more of us than there were crew members on this ship, and there was only one 20-millimeter gun aboard, and that was on the bow, and that's all firepower we had aboard that ship. But we zigzagged all across that South Pacific, as I remember, and wound up at an island called New Caledonia, which was mind-boggling to me at that time. And they took us aboard to the land and made us stay in tents and rain in those islands. And Rosie would come over nearly every night and make her little speech about the Americans. Go home, or we got you Americans. You just can't win the war. And we stayed there in a tent for, I think, a couple of weeks. And then I got a sign one morning, and they took us out and aboard this big ship, and I couldn't believe something like that could float on the water. And that's where they assigned me aboard this ship, and that was an aircraft carrier. That they said, I don't know, aircraft carrier from a destroyer or a cruiser or a battle wagon at that time.
And that was the Saratoga.
And that was the USS Saratoga aircraft carrier.
And what year was this?
That had to be in. I'm thinking it was probably October, November, December, probably February or March of 42. I'm no 43. Felt about 43 when I went aboard the Saratoga.
Well, what'd you do when you went aboard the Saratoga? What assignment did you have?
They had us in. They assigned me to the gallery. Yes, and helping the cooks in the gallery doing this, that, and the other. And I enjoyed that a little while, and of course at that time I made some kind of remark about West Texas or something about them, and the chief cook just knocked the way out of me, off my stool, and I got up and I didn't say very much more after that. And I found out I volunteered one time for something, And after that, I found out that you don't volunteer for anything else. Just if they want you, well, let them come get you, but don't volunteer for anything because you don't know what you're going to get into. So I learned my lesson right there.
So what was your assignment after the galley? Where'd you go after?
After galley, they assigned me to a boiler room. Number 12, I believe was number 12, the number boiler room. And I didn't know anything about the boiler room.
So what were your duties in the boiler room?
Well, to maintain the fire in the boiler there, and also look, and the water gauge had maintained the height and the level of the water gauge to keep it from boiling or blowing up or something. But that was one of the main things, was watch that water gauge to keep it level all the time.
What kind of shift did you have? How many hours did you have to do that?
As I remember, we had three crews, 8-hour day, and there were 3 of us on each crew that would go down, and the rest of them had their 16 hours off. They could sleep, and then they had another 8 hours they could do anything they wanted to, which was good.
Well, tell me a little bit about Saratoga. What did you do during your off periods there?
Well, outside of sleeping, I got playing, excuse me, pinochle. I played a lot of pinochle and read a lot of Zane Grey books. I enjoyed those Zane Grey books and my pinochle. And then I go flight deck, go on top up to the flight deck and watch the planes come in and take off. And I couldn't believe how in the world a plane could come in on the flight deck and with a hook and it would catch them without ripping that whole back end of that airplane out completely out of. I just didn't understand how that could happen, but it did. And I was up there one day and came in and he had weighed him off or something. But anyway, he missed the hanger and went in the drink. But they fished him out all right. They got him out all right. But it was an experience that it was a great experience at that time.
Any other experiences that you can remember that were kind of memorable like that?
Well, not really, except when we was doing an engagement with something. We had a closed hatch, a door that you go open and go in and close it, and you had about 6 by 8 space. Then you open another door to go down a flight of stairs into the boiler room, and you close that door behind you. And at times, when we have a excuse me, have a engagement or what was it? No, the whistle would blow. What am I trying to say? To alert us that something was about to happen or something, and then if we weren't on duty down in the boiler room, then the other 6 of us would go in this little space, which about I'm thinking it was about 6 by 8, something like that, between the 2 doors where we were.
So this was your assignment for battle stations at the battle call?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. If we weren't on duty in the down below in the ballroom, we were confined to this space.
Tell me a little bit about some of the officers and other seamen you served with. Anybody kind of stand out for you at this time?
No, I didn't see very many officers all my time. That I can remember, I didn't. And I just remember one young, about an 18-year-old from Wisconsin, and I've forgotten his name right now, and I was in touch with him for a long time, but I've lost touch with him now. But he was about the best friend I had aboard at that time, aboard ship.
Where did you go with the Saratoga after New Caledonia? Can you kind of go through the different stages of where you sailed with it?
Well, those islands that I just don't remember what engagements we were in. I have a list there of those that they did after I went aboard, and that I got a hold of. My friend at Plymouth Park Baptist looked up and did them all for me after I showed him the picture of the Saratoga.
Well, you mentioned the Guadalcanal. What were your impressions at Guadalcanal?
I don't remember Guadalcanal. I think that was before I went aboard.
Okay, Solomon's?
I think that was before I went aboard.
Well, Iwo Jima.
Now Iwo Jima was our very last battle of February of '45. And now some of those in between, some of those others that we had, I remember the Gilbert and the Marshalls. We went up there, and then some of those others that before February of '45 is where. Let's see, February of '45. Well, I was on duty, guard duty that night. That night in February, and all of a sudden I had a pain, and I went to see the doctor, and he says, "Well, it looks like kind of like appendicitis." So they put me in a basket and took me to the top flight deck and lowered me down to the dock. And from there I went in an ambulance, I guess, to Base 8 Hospital. And they operated on me for appendicitis. And as I remember, that they kept me in bed 5 days for appendicitis operation before I got out. And then I got out and did on the beach there for maybe a week, and I just barely, as I remember, I just barely did get back to Saratoga before we headed out. But as it turned out, would be our last battle, which was Iwo Jima.
Where were you for the appendicitis? Was it Marshall, or which island were you on?
No, we were in Pearl Harbor when that happened. In February of '45, we were in Pearl, and pulled out, and I never seen so many ships in all my life. They headed for Tokyo, and we got nearly to Tokyo, and it had the Saratoga and maybe a cruiser and destroyers peel off to the left, as I look, and he went to what a little island, I didn't know what it was, but they said it was Iwo Jima. And got down there just before the sun went down, and I went aboard, went to the flight deck, and I saw that big mountain where the Marines or the soldiers raised the flag on that mountain. I saw that. And then it was just, had the siren came in, that general quarters that were being attacked, that we were being attacked by kamikazes. On the port side, and they, as I recall, and they were being told that they came right on the water level, and the radar didn't pick them up quick enough way on out there, and they got, some of them got in, and I was in, well, all four sides, and on starboard, they got through and hit the Caterpillar up on the flight deck, and just took it out immediately. And we had a bunch of planes on the flight deck, couldn't get them off, and it took a torpedo on one side, and that happened a little after that. And there we were in this 6x6, just white as your shirt there was. Didn't know what. And all you could hear would just sound like glass shattering, cracking. Is all I can, as I remember, just like that, and rolling like that. And you know, all of a sudden it just quit, and then I found out that we got hit, all this, and then we headed back toward Pearl Harbor.
How did you know the attack was over? Did they come and get you, or did they sound an alarm? Or what?
They sounded an alarm. That it was, everything was all right.
Did you get to go up and take a look at the damage at that point?
Yes, and it was. They had a big fire on the flight deck, and they got it out, and damaged planes you wouldn't believe.
A lot of casualties?
A lot of casualties, I remember. I think we had somewhere around 250 casualties that night, and then a bunch of damaged planes. As I remember, we buried those at sea, and then dumped the airplanes off in the sea also as we were limping back to Pearl Harbor, I guess.
Did they give you any additional duties, cleanup operations or anything?
No. They just made us stay in our boiler room. Our assignments in the boiler room, as I recall.
How did the attack affect the Saratoga's performance? Was it, did they have enough power? Was it limited speed at that point?
Yes. Yes, we had enough speed and everything to navigate back to Pearl. And did some minor repairs at Pearl, and then we went on into Bremerton, Washington for major repair.
But what'd you do in Bremerton? How long did it stay there, and what were your assignments there? Did you stay on the ship?
Yeah, we stayed on the ship until it was our time that we could go ashore on. You know, we should go ashore, and then we could leave. Had a week or something like that, maybe, where we go home.
Where did the Saratoga go after Birmingham?
We went back to Pearl Harbor. Went back to Pearl Harbor, and it took us several months, and stayed in Pearl, I think. And I think the war ended in August of '42, didn't it? Somewhere in August, seemed like it was. And then from there, they assigned us to carry troops in personnel from Pearl back to the San Francisco. And we made, as I remember, we made 3 trips from time we started that until I got discharged in October of the 10th of 45.
How long did it take Saratoga to get from Pearl to the West Coast?
It seems like it was about 5 days, as I remember.
Thinking back on the end of World War II, when you heard about the treaty being signed, what were your thoughts when you heard the war was over?
Just was happy that the end had come quick, like it did. I was fortunate that I was still able to breathe a breath.
Let's talk a little bit about your life aboard the Saratoga. What was the food like?
The food was good. Amazingly, it was good. Just, of course, it wasn't like anything like your mother's home cooking back in those days, but it was all right. It was good.
Were you well supplied? Did you run short of anything in food or ammunition or anything like that?
No, because I think we were back in the States for different repairs in Bremerton about every 6 months, and then and they kept us well supplied, and we had a good Thanksgiving dinner aboard ship, and had a good Christmas dinner aboard ship, and it was great.
How'd you stay in touch with your family?
With letter writing.
How long did it take those letters to get back and forth when you were out in the ocean?
Well, it seems like it took maybe a couple of weeks before it would ever get back to Texas. And I remember.
Did you feel any pressure or stress? I know in combat, definitely you probably did. Any special feelings? You mentioned about in that room and how scared you were at Iwo Jima. Any other times that you really felt some stress?
No, I don't know why, but it seems like that everybody took it with good experience or good whatever I'm trying to say. They weren't stressed out like this bunch. And nowadays, this modern war that they have of Iwo Jima and Iraq or something, where they meet the enemy like that. Of course, it's altogether different because you're on the water and the land, I guess. Because if you get out in the ocean, if you get hit bare value, you're gone. You just gone like the wasp and the hornet, and they went down.
Did you have any good luck charms?
No, not that I remember. I didn't have any good luck
Did you
charms.
keep a diary?
I did not keep a diary, and that was one of my faults that I regret not doing.
Any other, I know we've talked a little bit about your fellow personnel, but is there any real friends that you made, any close people that, I know you played, what, pinochle you said?
Pinochle.
Anything you did for entertainment? And
No. No, I don't have any of those friends that were aboard ship. I just never did follow through with any of them. Except,
well, let's think about when your service ended and you left the Navy. Tell me a little bit about that. Where were you? When was it? What were your feelings when you separated from the Navy?
well, let's see, we're in San Francisco. Yeah, the last load we brought from Pearl back through when San Francisco was when October 10th. And I had enough points, I guess, to go home, and it was a happy day that I could get to go back home.
And where was home?
At Fort Sand, Texas, which is a little Allville community south of Big Spring in West Texas.
So what did you do when you got back to your hometown?
Well, I had my job was waiting for me before I went in with the Cosden pipeline, and I had a job right there, and with the back on in the gang, and at that time,
Did you use a GI Bill to go back to school?
yes, I used the GI Bill.
What'd you study?
Well, I was dating a young lady that came from Electra, Texas to Fort Sand to teach English and speech, and I got to dating her, and we decided, well, I'll just go back to college. And transferred to West Texas State University at Canyon, and went on the GI Bill in 1948, and graduated in 1950. I was going to be an industrial arts teacher, and went right back to Fort Sand, and went right back to the oil field, and haven't taught a day till yet.
Did you make any friendships in the service that you continued after you got out, and any veteran service organizations that you belonged to?
Well, my dad was World War I, and he was VFW, so I did the VFW for years. I did the VFW for years.
Did you hold any officer positions in the
No.
VFW?
No.
Did you like the VFW?
I liked it all right. It's fine. Fine organization.
Well, how did you, let's see, West Texas was your hometown. How did you get back into the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
My wife, 50 years, passed away in January of 2002, and I stayed in. Well, we had moved to Snyder with Sun Oil Company. I was with Sun Oil Company at that time, and I retired in '84 from Sun Oil Company, and I had 33 years of service with Sun Oil Company. And I was 45 years in Snyder. and my wife passed away, and I stayed in Snyder from January of '02 until July of '03. And I had a daughter here in Dallas area. She said, I think you better come closer to us. And that's what I did in '03.
Okay. What'd you do for Sunderwell?
I was in the gang, and then I was a pumper. Got a pumper, which was they later classified as a lease operator. And I have lived and worked in the oil field since 1929, when my dad came to Texas from Illinois and got on at Fort Sand as a roughneck, and then he finally got on with Cosden, and that's how come I stayed in the oil field business all my life. I guess because I just liked it, just enjoyed it.
Thinking back on your military experience and being in the military, how does that affect your thinking about war, the military in general, the service people? How did that affect you actually being in the military? What's your thinking about the people in the war and military? In other words, does patriotism come in? Tell me a little bit of what you're thinking about the military.
Well, my thought is we shouldn't have ever done away with the draft. I still think that these young men should serve at least 2 years and then decide what they want to do. And that way we'd have enough military to serve our country. Now that's just my thinking. I've always thought that we should have had a draft for that young men coming out should have at least 2 years of experience in the military.
How did the military affect your life? What changes did you see?
Well, it made me grow up a little bit stronger with a firmer belief that we should do things the right way and not let people run over us like a lot of them try to do. Be aggressive.
Thinking back on the United States back in 1941.
41.
What's the feeling, or what was your feeling as far as the general population on coming together as a patriotic nation and doing their duties and all? Did you sense that?
Yeah, back in those days, we didn't have any problem with people wanting to go and serve their country and do what they could, and that's why a lot of those that left in '41, you could tell that they were eager to serve their country in '41. That's why they left Tech. As I remember, we had maybe 6,000 students, and after that, maybe half that many was at Tech for the spring semester '42, and I didn't have any qualms. I didn't have any qualms with I just waited because I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just waited until the draft. And I didn't, and I went and did my duty like I was supposed to back in those days.
Well, Mr. Monroney, do you have anything else to add to your experiences in World War II and the military? Anything you'd like to tell us in addition?
Well, I think it would be good if these young men coming out of high school, they need to serve in some capacity, in my opinion. It would make them a better man, in my opinion. I think it would, and help them to grow up better.
Well, Mr. Monroney, we do thank you for your service on behalf of Congressman Marchant and the United States. Thank you for what you did. You were part of the greatest generation, and we appreciate you coming in and talking to us about your experiences. I thank you.
Well, I appreciate it.